monitoring. All right, I think we can start our conversation. Remember, the role of the Health Professions Council of Zambia, HPCZ, is to protect the public by ensuring that health services are provided safely, ethically, and professionally across the country. Today, we're talking about an important topic that concerns both health practitioners and members of the public. This topic is how to report complaints against health practitioners and health facilities. Now, many people are not always sure what kind of complaints HPCZ handles, when to report a matter, or what happens after a complaint is submitted. So we will be explaining it all during this live with our legal counsel, Mr. Lloyd Bwalya. Mr. Bwalya, good morning again.
Good morning, Mwaka. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to interact with our stakeholders.
Great, thank you. So to start our conversation, could you briefly explain why HPCZ receives complaints and what the main goal of this process is?
Okay, so I think it's a brilliant place to start. HPCZ, in the way that it's set up, is set up to be able to do a various number of things, but overarching is the need for the regulation of healthcare services. And when you look at healthcare services, you realize that one important component is the practitioners themselves, the providers of this healthcare service. And so it's important that as part of the regulation, we look at how are they faring? Are they practicing within the rules that are set up? A bit more technical, you will discover that our Act, our Health Professions Act, I have a copy here,
Okay.
and I'll keep referring to this document. Our Health Professions Act, most importantly, talks about one of the mandates that is given to HPCZ under Section 4 is the mandate to be able to receive and investigate complaints of professional misconduct. So that's very clear. But in addition to that, we are supposed to register and regulate. So there's a component of regulate. We don't just register, we regulate the professional conduct of these health professionals. Again, if you look at health facilities, since we license them, they're supposed to operate within certain frameworks. They're supposed to meet certain standards. And also, most importantly, we are mandated to protect the public in matters of the health profession. So then it becomes important for members of the public whom we are here to serve to know that we are here to listen to them. And because we can't be everywhere at the same time, we depend on them to give us feedback. So it's a feedback mechanism for us to be able to go and look at what's happening on the ground. Once we do that, then we can assure the public that this was something that happens within the normal course of operations, or this is way out of the normal course of operations, and the deserved punishment, was meted out. So we play a very critical role, I think.
Okay.
And I think that's why it's important for members to be able to complain to us so that we have an opportunity to then discharge our function.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Counsel. Now, what types of complaints does HPCZ handle?
The types of complaints, well, they vary. And I think we'll get into more detail around which ones we've seen, how can members of the public help us in terms of what details to put in the complaint. But we receive complaints relating to the healthcare service. We also receive complaints relating to the way the practitioner handled certain things during the service provision. And so our focus really is on complaints that relate to the way and the manner in which a member of the public, a patient, was handled in the provision or in receiving the healthcare service that they went to receive. And so that's the type of complaints we receive. But I must say that we receive different kinds of complaints, and usually we have to decipher and see where our role is, what part we can play in attending or helping that member of the public. And we'll get to how we handle certain complex complaints when we get to a certain portion of this conversation, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
I would really want to understand, there are cases that HPCZ does not handle because we've had queries at times where
Yes.
someone has been billed exorbitantly and they feel that they should report to HPCZ. So do we look at billing disputes or issues that belong to other regulatory institutions? For example, we find an issue in a facility and this relates to ZAMRA or the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Does HPCZ still handle such cases, or we prefer to refer to the responsible institutions?
Okay, again, I think this is a very brilliant question, because usually what has happened is we find ourselves in a situation where we may not fully be, have the jurisdiction to handle an issue, but we always find ourselves with a role to play. Whether that role is to refer to another, regulatory institution, or whether that role is to collaborate with another regulatory institution. And I'll explain those two angles. So what would happen is, our understanding is that we exist in a multidisciplinary environment. We are in a regulatory framework where ours is only but one role to play. And so what would happen is, you find that a patient or a member of the public is unhappy about a number of things, one of which might be an issue that touches on us, which is either dealing with the health practitioner or the health facility itself. And so we look into that. But where we go on the ground and discover, or where it becomes apparent that, look, this is maybe a billing issue, and I'll refer to billing because you asked about it. And usually, billing issues are not our province. They are not within our jurisdiction. There are other players like the Consumer and
Protection.
Yes, the Competition and Consumer Protection Authority. There are other players like the Zambia Medicines Regulatory Authority. There are other players like, the Nurses and Midwifery Council, where, health provision is done by both nurses, midwives, and health practitioners. They may have both all been handling one issue. And so where we find that here, it's better for us to take a multidisciplinary approach where we need to collaborate. Then we look at the issues collectively, but we are able to individually deal with the components that affect the area of regulation that we handle. But sometimes it's outrightly outside. And I get the confusion. We don't expect sometimes a member of the public to decipher. And so they can still feel free to write to us to complain, because they're in a health facility and the understanding generally is that this is a hospital, I'm here, the people responsible for it is Health Professions Council of Zambia. But maybe it's an issue to do with billing, which is primarily a competition and consumer protection issue, or it's maybe to do with tax, which is a ZRA issue. And so when it's written to us, we still won't throw it away or pay a blind eye. What we will do is take an interest. In taking an interest, we will refer the matter to the appropriate authorities. Once we do that, we still are able to follow up, but we will inform the complainant that this is the route we've taken, this is the reason, we are still keeping this in view, and if there's any outcome on this issue that may relate to our mandate, we're more than happy then to come in and deal with the issues. And also, we put these, stakeholders, health professionals or health facilities on alert that we're looking at this issue. And should we find that this is a problem, it has the ability to affect your license in whatever way. So I thought that we could have that explanation, which is a big explanation to your question. But in our existence as a regulatory institution, we are cognizant that we're not the only regulator in this context. There are other players who we are either supposed to work with or can at least alert that there's an issue that's going on.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, Council, thank you so much for that response. And let me just remind our viewers that this is an interactive session, and we would like to encourage you to send in your questions as we go along in the conversation. You can send your questions through the comment section. I've already seen, I don't know what's happening. Somebody's talking about Lex. We're not talking about Lex now. I think Council already handled that issue last time he was here. We are talking about how to report complaints against health practitioners and health facilities. Please tag whomever you think will benefit from this information. Anyone, because you're all health service consumers, it doesn't mean that you only have to be sick for you to get to the hospital. There are other things that you go there for. So thank you for joining us. But please remember, this is a conversation we're having, and we ask you to send in your comments, your questions, your suggestions, and all that. Council, my next question would be, who is allowed to lodge a complaint? Can it be a patient, a relative, or even a fellow health practitioner reporting another practitioner?
Okay. So a person, anyone is allowed to complain. In fact, it's encouraged that anybody who sees something wrong should be able to come and alert us, because the general public is our ears and eyes. And so it's not restricted to only a patient, neither is it restricted to only a relative. But importantly, a health practitioner is, in fact, mandated. There's a professional requirement that once they see something going wrong, they are supposed to report. We have what we call the health professions disciplinary proceedings rules. If you look at those rules and you look at the very first provision, I think that's Rule 3, it talks about an obligation placed on a health practitioner to report either a conviction, any misconduct that's happening within their, purview, to be able to bring it to the attention of the council. It goes even further to state that a failure to do so, and we discover that you had knowledge of this, is in fact professional misconduct on the health practitioner's part. And so it's a very serious issue that we expect a health practitioner to be above board, to be vigilant in their environment, to also be a brother's keeper in the positive, that if a brother is doing something wrong, then they are letters to look into it. Ultimately, the goal is to make sure that that brother is a better practitioner. They are, they are put in line. We're not always punitive. We are, the council is there to be able to save even health practitioners as we save the public. Okay. And so that's for a health practitioner. For a member of the public, if I see Mwaka being handled in a manner that I feel is either suspicious or below the standard that I otherwise think that a health practitioner is expected to do, I'm very welcome to be able to approach HPCZ and write a complaint that I was at facility A, I saw Dr. so-and-so treating this person poorly or behaving in a manner that's not befitting of a health practitioner. And so I think you should look into it. Then now we'll look at it, go and dig in and look at the circumstances and make a determination from there. Okay. So it is not restricted as who should in terms of who should complain. It's very open-ended, and it's deliberately so, because healthcare services, they are universal. Everybody has access to them, and not everybody would have the ability to complain. Mm-hmm. And so we must always look out for each other in that fashion.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. And then at what point should a person decide to report a matter to HPCZ? Mm-hmm. Should they first try to resolve it at the facility level, mm-hmm. or can they come directly to the council?
Well, it's a two-tier question for me.
Okay.
Whereas we encourage resolution of matters, just as anywhere else, it's encouraged that matters should be resolved amicably, quickly, and, a bit more cordially. There are some matters where it's not possible for you to resolve, where a huge injustice would be caused if you didn't bring it to our attention. And what I mean by injustice is that it may not only be you. You may resolve the issue. But if a practitioner is highly deficient in the manner that they offer a service, it's possible that in the line that you sit to receive that service, the next person may be suffering because you didn't, bring it to the attention of institutions like ours, where we can help the situation by making sure the practitioner is rehabilitated, but also making sure that the practitioner is, capacitated in a manner that then they are able to offer a service that is wholesome. And so it becomes important, even from the notion that it's important for us to resolve issues amicably, that you identify what type of issue this is. Is this an issue where it may have been a quarrel, and so maybe it may be prudent for you to be able to resolve it and talk about it. But it may be an issue that is an issue relating to capacity, where this practitioner just can't perform, or this practitioner is conducting themselves in a very poor manner, such that it has become part of their daily conduct. It then affects the provision of the healthcare service, but it also affects the way that the health profession is viewed. The health profession, as I've come to know it, is considered a noble profession. And so nobility is in the aura in which it should be regarded. And so we want to maintain it that way. In fact, we want to keep the highest of standards. And so we would like a cleaned up system where everybody is exuding of, you know, the notion of nobility and is promoting of it. And so we want complaints to come, not because we want to punish practitioners, but we want to protect the public, first of all, and maintain, you know, the health profession as a noble profession, as a profession that is respected and valued and trusted, most importantly.
Okay. I don't know if you're able to answer this one now.
Yes, please.
Bwalya Lizevet. I hope I pronounced your
Just
name
get
correctly.
a pen.
Because yes, but I'll take it as Bwalya.
Yes.
She's saying, what about cases where a practitioner attends to a client and doesn't write any, I think this is notes, but she put noted, any notes. A practitioner is attending to me and they do not write any notes. I'm sure maybe she means an issue of recording.
Yes, recording.
Patients.
I get it.
Yes.
I get it. So when you look at, so there's this booklet, Mwaka. It's called the Code of Ethics and Discipline. So this booklet contains the parameters within which a health practitioner is expected to operate. One of the notable issues in here, and I think that's 5.3C, is an issue of keeping records. And it cannot be overemphasized the need for record keeping in the provision of healthcare services, because the health record is what informs treatment. It doesn't have to be from the same practitioner, but going further. And that record informs how, you know, another doctor will handle you if there's a referral. That's the same record that you know, comes into play. But even for us, when we're assessing the way you were handled, we look for the record. And so patient records are one of the biggest issues that a practitioner is meant to be able to keep. Clear, concise, and properly kept record. And there's a whole regulation around, you know, the keeping of patient records. So that would be very unfortunate if there's any practitioner out there who's attending to patients without taking notes or keeping a record, an accurate record of what they did, the investigations they carried out, and the plan of, you know, treatment. Then they're falling short of what is expected of them. That is potential professional misconduct, and we would like to know details of, you know, any of those issues that are happening. So the listener can probably bring a complaint so that we're able to look into that. We encourage records to be kept. In fact, we demand that records are kept. Anything falling short of that, then it means that the practitioner may be professionally misconducting themselves.
Great. Okay.
Indeed.
So can someone report both an individual practitioner and the health facility if they feel that both of them have contributed to an issue, for example?
Well, I'll answer that a bit more broadly. And my answer is yes. It's raining now, Mwaka.
Exactly.
I hope that
and you people who are upstairs, you're just very close to the roof.
Yes. So for our purposes as HPCZ, yes, you can report. And in reporting, what we want to see is a lot of detail around the circumstances leading to your complaint. When you do that, it helps us then know the appropriate actions to take. Rather, it helps us know the angles to investigate and the appropriate actions to take. Now, it's important for people to know that when you're dealing with professional misconduct, professionally deals with the individual practitioner. And so in complaints, what I would like to encourage is for people to be able to take names of who's attending to them. And it's a matter of right for a patient to know the name of the practitioner attending to them. And it goes as easy as, what is your name? What is your HPCZ number? I would like to know what profession you are.
We're allowed to do that?
Yes, you are allowed to do that. In fact, practitioners are encouraged to wear name tags, complete with their full names, their profession, and their HPCZ numbers. And you can go so far as to even request their license. Could I please see your practicing license for this year, so that I have comfort that the person attending to me is in fact a qualified and licensed practitioner. This is why it is a requirement for health facilities to display licenses at a conspicuous place. And conspicuous place just means when I walk in, places that are visibly and easy to see in the hospital, such that if I want to check Dr. Mwaka at this facility, who I know works here, I can easily just confirm with my eyes and say, oh, that's the license that applies to Dr. Mwaka. But to the extent that I can't see that license, or, you know, some hospitals are too big, or you missed it at that conspicuous place, you are able to kindly request, if you could see the license, if you could see the practicing certificate or whatever we would call it, but more importantly, if you could get the name at least, so that in our investigations or in our processes, we're able to identify who exactly handled you when you went to that facility. And so professional misconduct, I was saying, is in relation to an individual practitioner who in their practice is conducting or expected to conduct themselves in a certain way. But where you are complaining against a health facility, that becomes, and I want to explain this clearly, that becomes a compliance issue. Remember, whereas health practitioners are expected to conduct themselves in a certain way, health facilities are expected to meet certain standards in offering that service. So they are supposed to have, for example, if they are supposed to have a stethoscope in their custody, or a system that, you know, keeps records, that must work, and they don't have, it compromises the service. And so a patient or a member of the public is allowed to complain wholesomely that when I went here, attended to by Dr. Mwaka, this person wasn't able to do this. And I feel that the system at the hospital is inadequate. And so we'll isolate and look at this practitioner in their behavior and their conduct. Did they conduct themselves in a proper way? And were they supported by the equipment that is expected of this hospital? So if they weren't supported, then we interrogate the system under which they are working. It's possible that they conducted themselves perfectly within the circumstances, but it's highly possible that then the hospital fell short of the requirements that they're supposed to meet. And so we deal with the hospital and make sure that we penalize them or take them to task for what they didn't have. That is also conducted through a process of inspection. There's different types of inspection, and I think the relevant departments could be able to chat on that. But it is important that all circumstances are recorded so that we tackle the issue fully and comprehensively. Because what the member of the public wants, I believe, is to be able to be informed that we looked into this issue, what we found is A, B, C, D, and therefore we've taken these steps, so this is the next step to be taken. And I think that, yes, then they can complain against a health facility and against a health practitioner.
Great,
Yes.
okay. Council, there's a comment from Ivan Simwalizi.
Okay.
He says, in my view, I think that is a case to be handled by a supervisor within the hospital. If not, then it can be taken to DHO. If persists, then it can be reported to HPCZ. I think he's talking about the process of when do you report to HPCZ. So he's saying, why not start at the facility, then go to DHO, and then come to HPCZ. What would you say about that?
Well, HPCZ, in the way it's set up, is that we look at professional misconduct. We are the only authority or regulator of misconduct, of professional conduct. And so anything that goes to the root of professional misconduct, and we can look into what constitutes professional misconduct. I can read out, I think around section 66 of the Health Professions Act. DHO, or the Ministry of Health, or the supervisor, that's an employment issue where, you know, as employment issues or as institutions, there are administrative matters that can be handled. So it's an administrative issue and not a professional conduct issue. Even though we've seen some issues take that forward and they eventually end up here, what we're encouraging members of the public is that when they have a problem with a practitioner in relation to the service that they receive, they must quickly come to HPCZ, and then we will initiate investigations. If we find that it's an administrative issue, then we'll leave it for the facility to handle. But more often than not, is that there's a falling short of the professional conduct in relation to how the service was provided. We are interested in that because we're interested in taking care of the problems that the health facility may have, but we're also interested in taking care of the deficiencies in the professional conduct that the practitioner may have exhibited. And so at an administrative stage, yes, the facility, the SMSs, the head of clinical care and all those things, they can handle issues that arise. Also, they can be escalated through every channel, including up to the Ministry of Health. But the Ministry of Health, the government has entrusted HPCZ to take care of the professional conduct. So if a practitioner falls short of what is expected in this code of ethics, it therefore means that it's a ripe environment for us to be able to step in, and we will not wait for the administrative channels. We engage and make sure that where we find deficiencies professionally, we deal with them, or where we find that this is a matter that, there was nothing here, then we close that complaint.
Okay. So then where we're going to have the confusion now is I'm at a facility. Now I'm not able to decide is this an administrative issue or is this a professional matter that should go to HPCZ?
Allow us to decide for you. We are employed to assist you.
Okay.
So come here, complain. We'll sit down with you and let you know that from your complaint, what we have seen is that this matter is an administrative matter. Remember, we spoke about referring, where we feel we have no role to play, or that indeed our role is to refer. We'll walk that stage with you. We'll take you by the hand and lead you to where it can be appropriately handled. But more often than not, I can assure you that within that complaint, we have a role to play. And if it means that we are referring it to the Nurses and Midwifery Council because we see that it's nurses instead of health practitioners or midwives, it's a nurse or midwife, we refer it to the appropriate channel. If we find that this is an issue best handled by ZAMRA, we then take you and say, look, we're writing on your behalf to ZAMRA. We're copying you in, and therefore you can follow up with them, but would like to know how it went. If we find that this is an administrative matter, purely administrative, which is highly unlikely, we engage and say, look, I think this matter is best handled administratively. Therefore, write to the in-charge or go to the district health office and all those things. But what we are saying is that let the members of the public not be suffering from the confusion of whether to come here or not. Let them come here. We come here to serve them anyway. So when my office is open, a member of the public can come and sit where you are. Once they talk to me about the issue, I will then guide them as to whether this is administrative or not. Yes.
Great. Okay, now could you walk us through the steps involved once a complaint is lodged? I mean, from submission to resolution of the matter.
Okay, so interestingly, the issue of investigations, which I mentioned is one of our mandates. It's in section 4, that should be J, that we are mandated to investigate complaints of professional misconduct. And so when a complaint is lodged, the immediate thing that we'll do is acknowledge that we have received the complaint and that we are looking at it. What then might happen is that we might ask for further details in wanting to get the full context, the full story of what had happened, so that we set our course of action properly. And we are informed as to whether we need to refer, we need to look into it ourselves, and, all those steps. And once we get in touch with you, we expect that you then are forthcoming with all the details that we require of you. Once we collect all the details, we inform the person complained against that we have this complaint against you, and that we expect also for them to be able to submit certain documentation for our analysis, right? Once that's done, we then set up a team, an ad hoc team specific to that complaint. This is guided by, the disciplinary proceedings rules that I had mentioned, where who should be part of that team, how that team is constituted. But basically, it's a team comprising of health practitioners relevant to the issue. So if it's a pediatric issue, you expect that we'll call experts in pediatrics. But also that team has one or more legal practitioners on that, because this is now a process that is judicial in nature. And we send that team on the ground to be able to gather facts. It's a fact-finding mission so that they establish exactly what had happened. They also relate to the rules that we expect the practitioners to operate within. Once they gather all those facts, they then come up with a report. So in the process of investigation, we interview witnesses, we interview the complainant, we interview all the stakeholders that are involved, including collecting reports from the relevant people that were part of the care of that patient or handling that particular issue at the time. Once we collect all that, it is now condensed into an investigation report. This report highlights all the details, factual, the analysis by the team, and gives recommendations as to whether this matter, there was, on the face of it, professional misconduct. That then warrants further look by the other relevant committees that will come after that. Or if this matter was not, anywhere near the ambit of professional misconduct and therefore does not deserve to proceed to the next stage. If the recommendation of that team is that it does not deserve to proceed to the next stage, we then quickly inform the complainant of the findings that, look, the findings are that we looked into the issue and we found that practitioner A operated within what is expected of them. And we therefore find that there is no further, it does not warrant us to further look into it. We also inform any stakeholders or indeed the people complained against, and we consider that matter closed. The other one is where it has warranted further look into. That now graduates to the next stage where there's a relevant committee. Now we have what we call the Professional Conduct Committee, the PCC. It's a peer-driven mechanism which will look into the issue, make sure that they call the person complained against the practitioner, and they're able to further look into it. It's like a small court process, a quasi-judicial proceedings in nature, where they gather, they come and collect testimony, and then once they determine the matter, they can mete out punishment. The punishment will range from being able to just censure or order that the person is rehabilitated and all those things. But then if it's grave enough, it will graduate to the disciplinary committee, which is the highest quasi-judicial body looking at complaints. This body will look into it a bit deeper, further, and the punishments range from being deregistered, which is that you can no longer practice as a health practitioner, or indeed just being censured also that, look, we don't expect this behavior, depending on the gravity of the issue. Now, the period which it takes is subjective, but it is expected that, first of all, the investigation stage should not take any more than 30 days. And so all those processes of investigation, there are times when it takes longer because sometimes information needed or people to be interviewed are out of the jurisdiction. Sometimes there's a piece of information that's required that hasn't yet been put together. And so there are a number of factors that may make it delay. But ideally, we want to maintain that it's concluded within the shortest possible time so that we give the complainant feedback, but we also give the people complained against the feedback that they deserve. Then once it graduates into the inquiry, which is the disciplinary processes, quasi-judicial in nature, we can't estimate the time because it's quasi-judicial in nature. It then ends up being that there are technicalities that might be involved in how the matter is proceeding. So we might adjourn for one reason or the other. There may be interlocutory applications where people want more time to look for witnesses and produce evidence. And so all we hope is that we conclude these issues as quickly as possible, and we endeavor to do that. So all in all, we hope that these matters are concluded in a speedy way, and we like that they are concluded in a very speedy and excellent way.
Okay. At what point is it decided that a particular matter should go to court instead of being handled at that level with HPCZ, with the highest committee, or is it the...
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So, an individual is at liberty to decide whether they want HPCZ to be able to handle the issue or they would like to go straight to court. They have the two options available. So others have gone to court for medical negligence and other things like that, other causes of action. And so they're at liberty to do that. But if someone decides to do it simultaneously, where they complain to us and they decide to take out a court action, what happens is that once the court action is taken out, our processes come to a standstill. So we wait for the court to finish its processes, which then would inform us. So the findings that are found in court are extrapolated into our process. And that's a very basic, issue when dealing with the judiciary, that we don't want to be inquiring into an issue that is being inquired into by the courts. Otherwise, then we'll be usurping the powers of the courts. And we don't want to produce an outcome that is different from the outcome that, the Honorable Court would have otherwise inquired into and looked at. So we want to let the court do its thing first, and then we use that record to be able to inform our process.
Okay. So when a matter is before HPCZ, do you give the complainant and the accused person, or the suspect in this case, the suspected?
Yes, well, the practitioner complained
I
against.
don't want to exactly. Yes, I don't know what word to use. Okay, yes. Do you give them both equal chances of being heard?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Everybody gets a chance. They get to produce their witnesses. They let us know how many people they want to call to testify on their behalf. They're even at liberty to engage, lawyers to represent them. And so it's a full-blown inquiry where people are allowed to bring and make their case.
Okay. And then we have people that sometimes fear to be victimized. They wouldn't want to bring a matter to HPCZ because of victimization issues.
Yes.
Do you then accept anonymous reports?
Yes, we do. We do accept anonymous reports. And those that wish to not be identified are welcome to approach us. We try our very best to make sure that they are kept anonymous. All we encourage is that they are able to furnish us with as much information as possible. But we encourage people to be brave, that once a wrong is seen to be done and is being done, we hope that their voices can add, to bringing justice. And so where they can, it's better that they are identifiable and they're able to come and testify. But where they are completely unable for whatever reason, we are able to keep them anonymous and ensure that they're not victimized.
Okay.
Yes.
But then there are also those that would want to identify themselves to HPCZ. They can even come for those investigations. But then they do not want to be seen by the people they are complaining against. Do you accept those as well? Where they come, they would explain themselves to you.
Yes.
But when a facility, for example, is there, or the health practitioner they're accusing is there, they do not want that. You also accept to keep the confidentiality.
Yes.
That they
Yeah, so witnesses, if you're going to be a witness, it's difficult to keep you anonymous. But if you have information that we could use and you want to remain anonymous, I think we can collect that information and see how we use it. Although the weight of the information is better when it's supported by the actual individual at the appropriate time. But if you want to be kept anonymous, we cannot force someone to be able to come and testify. Suffice to mention that, when you are victimized, or if you are victimized, you can still come back to us and we're able to look into those issues to the extent that we can, especially if it's by a health facility or a health practitioner. That health practitioner may actually be committing professional misconduct by interfering with a well laid out, inquiry.
Okay.
And so, please be brave enough to be able to speak up. And where it's really necessary to keep you anonymous, we endeavor to keep you as anonymous as possible.
Okay. Derek Muyasani says the topic is just okay, but they should shed more, because I sense that it needs more information than just reporting a case without full information and witnesses to the case. I think you've already handled.
Yes. And Derek is right, because you see, it's faster, easier, and better, even for us, to look into a matter where information is full. So you're giving me, the practitioner I'm complaining against is Mwaka. She works at ABCD. I went on this date. These are the issues that transpired. My feeling is that here things were not handled well. Go and look into it.
Okay.
Once we go, within a short time, we make up our mind and look at the facts and communicate back to you that, that issue that you had talked about, we actually found that there's a problem. Please come, and we're giving you this date to come and testify and give us more information so that we make a determination.
Okay.
So complainants must just be wary that HPCZ requires as much information as possible. And like writing in one sentence that this person did not treat me well, it may not be very helpful.
Okay.
Also, practitioners must know that we are not here out to get them. What we are here to do is to look into any conduct that's complained of. And because they also deserve our protection, if it's conduct or if it's a complaint that is not warranted, we then clear them and inform the person complaining that, look, this is not warranted and this is allowed, so please let this person continue operating and giving a service.
Okay. And then there are times when a practitioner notices that their workplace is not following proper standards according to what they were licensed.
Yes.
But they fear speaking out. Can HPCZ also receive complaints from practitioners against their own facilities or employers? Have we had such cases before? I'm asking this because, in journalism, there's always, I think we used to learn that time. I don't know now how the syllabus is. Yeah. They used to tell us you can't bite the finger that feeds you. So
no.
Just be supplied there.
Yeah, no. In this space, in fact, we have received many complaints where a practitioner is really worried about the services that have been offered. And like I said, this is a noble profession. So if the service is poor, it means that the practitioner is not, practicing freely and within the boundaries that are expected of them. So they risk at some point being cited themselves for misconduct because they don't have the tools that, could otherwise be used or the environment is not allowing. So practitioners are expected, like I said, to report incidents where they feel there's misconduct or things are going wrong. And luckily, we have very brave practitioners who have done that. And some of them have openly done it without the fear of victimization, although a good number of them have opted to remain anonymous. But it's very encouraging when you look at the statistics we have that practitioners raise concern that this health facility is not allowing me to serve my clients in the best way possible because they are lacking A, B, C, D, or the environment within which we operate is in such a way that they are doing things that are not acceptable even to HPCZ. So please come and look at this. Or there's this practitioner who behaves in this way every time. It makes us look bad. It makes the facility look bad. It doesn't help us fulfill our obligations. And so they've come on and said, look, HPCZ and team, look into this matter and determine. And we have determined such matters.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. On a lighter note, I think this one is on a lighter note from Gesh Cheesy. He says, we have enemies who are not happy that we are working, so they can put anything. Enemies cancer.
Yeah,
they just don't like the fact that Mwaka is working in this facility. Alessa is in this facility. While they're volunteering, so they decide to go and...
Josh is being paranoid, but Josh mustn't worry because what HPCZ does is that every person is considered innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
So even if there's the worst complaint against you, we'll afford you a chance to give us your side of the story. But what you should be concerned about is just do the correct thing every time. Because when we visit you, we are only interested in seeing what you did and whether you did it right or not. If you did it wrong, then we have a bond to chew with. If you did it right, then we will support you through the whole process and inform your enemies, in quote unquote, that actually Josh is a perfect example of what a practitioner should be.
Okay.
So Josh should not worry about HPCZ coming for them in pursuance of their enemies' needs. But what we will do is we will afford Josh an opportunity to prove his enemies wrong.
Exactly.
And Josh must now just focus on doing the right thing in accordance with the code of ethics.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. As we conclude, how can people submit complaints? Is there an online form? Is there an email address? Or do they need to come physically to HPCZ offices?
Okay. We've decided to make it pretty simple that you can send your complaint through email. And we've been receiving a good number of them through our email addresses, which I think, Mwaka, you can share with the audience after this.
Yes.
But also, there's an option to come to our offices. We prefer complaints written so that we have a record to follow. So it doesn't help when you come and narrate to me. I'll still ask you to put it in writing. The only qualification is that please make it as comprehensive as possible to help us with our processes and also to cut down on the back and forth that we'll have with you. And so there's no form. We are hoping to develop one as a guide, but I think that complaints are diverse in nature. And so we want to allow individuals to be able to write them in the best way that they understand. But the form we're trying to develop is basically for data collection, where we'll be asking for the name of a practitioner, the facility, and just different types of data that we realize that people leave out, and so it causes a back and forth, which then makes the process longer. But in terms of the detail of the complaint, the only expectation is that it's detailed enough. And then send it via email in the comfort of your office, your home, or wherever you are. We'll be able to still get back to you via email. Most importantly also, we expect to have your contact details on that complaint.
Okay.
Whether you're anonymous or not, for our purpose, we want to be able to interact with you, confirm a few things, and then be able to assist you as we interrogate that complaint.
Okay. We've had people who send their complaints through the HPCZ official email address under the Office of the Registrar, which is info@hpcz.org.za. Then we have some who have complained that how long do you take to respond to say you have received my complaint?
Okay.
How long do you do? Do you respond, or you wait until you have read the whole thing to tell them, okay, we have received your complaint?
No, actually, once we receive, because acknowledging is just receiving of the complaint, then in terms of the details, once we read them, we look at them, and we require more, we'll still then be in touch with you at different intervals.
Okay.
So I think the delays in responding sometimes is just because of the volumes that are being processed. And once we get to yours, you'll definitely get an acknowledgement that your complaint has been duly received and that we are going to now start the process of looking at it. But because of the volumes, you may be at the tail end of the line. And so once we get to yours, then we communicate with you a bit more directly to get more information. But let people feel free. And if they want to still follow up, let them follow up. It's good for us. It then also helps us give them feedback on where the complaint is.
Okay.
And then once we receive it, it's allocated to our department, where we then interact with the complainant a bit more one-on-one with the team.
All right.
Yes.
Counsel, your concluding remarks, I would like you to give a message to health practitioners about upholding, maintaining professional and ethical standards to avoid complaints, because many a times when HPCZ is accused of witch hunting, so maybe you may just want practitioners to be making all those mistakes so that you, counsel, has a job to do.
There's no benefit to us, looking into all this. But anyway, my concluding remarks is just, as a practitioner, you are, taught the boundaries within which to operate. But also, I'm made to believe that, the codes of ethics are given to every practitioner upon registration. Make use of this document. Make sure you read it to have a full understanding of what is expected of you. Most importantly, I think I just want to remind practitioners that, look, the profession is considered a noble one, and you are working under the concept which I like to call borrowed credibility. And so when someone walks up to you as a health practitioner, you need not prove to them in any way that you are trustworthy, that you are competent. You are already considered competent and trustworthy. And what you've done is that you've borrowed that credibility from the bigger health profession, from the constituency that's called the health profession. And so they say, oh, doctors are good people. Doctors are trustworthy. Doctors. And so we want to maintain that for the whole. The moment then you veer off is that you are impacting this credibility that you've borrowed. You are impacting the rest of, the constituency. And so we expect that you contribute positively to that credibility. And it requires that you're on top of your game, you act within the rules, you make sure that you attend to patients or members of the public in ways that adhere to at most the highest of standards. And so just as an encouragement that we observe the standards that are made. But also importantly is for you to know that the Health Professions Council of Zambia is there for practitioners also. Practitioners have rights the same way that patients have rights. And so it's expected that practitioners must know that even if there's a complaint against them, it is not automatic that they are then going to be found guilty or that, we are witch hunting them. The process of fact finding is that we expect you to give your side of the story. Once you give your side of the story, then HPCZ makes a determination. Overall, I just want to say that our doors are always open. We are here to interact with you. If you feel there's information that you want, we're here to give it to you to assist you in your practice. Those will be my last words, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Webster Sichongo is a bit late on this one, but I think it's a matter that obviously you would advise that they write. They're saying my baby girl, who after being jabbed with BCG vaccine on its 5th day at a certain clinic developed jaundice. Thereafter, it was referred to Kanyama First Level Hospital and the condition worsened. It was again referred to UTH, but we were there. There was no ambulance. We were told to wait from 10 hours to 21 hours. When we reached at UTH, we were told that we were late. The condition had gone far beyond their capacity. I think this is a complaint that they may need to put in writing, like you said.
Yes, that's the name again. Just give me the name of the gentleman.
Webster Shichongo.
Shichongo.
Yes, she like the Bemba she.
Okay.
Then
Okay, so Mr. Webster, I'm hoping that Mr. Webster can just quickly get in touch with yourself, even through the Facebook. If we can get just his full details, phone numbers, I can personally call him after the program just to get more detail, but also give him direction as to where he should write and how to channel his complaint.
All right.
It sounds like a very important complaint, and we take these matters very seriously.
Thank you.
Let's be able to get to Mr. Webster, and thank you, Mr. Webster, for joining the program.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Webster. You've heard that from Council. Please do get in touch, and we'll handle it from there. Council, thank you so much for joining us today. We know you're very busy. You have another meeting that you need to attend to. Yes. So thank you for joining us. We'll still call on you when we need to discuss legal matters.
Mwaka, thank you very much for having me, and I'm always happy to be here.
Thank you. All right, our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. And for those of you that commented, for those of you that sent in questions, we are so grateful, including those of you that just joined and were listening in. Thank you so much. From me and my team, Kabesa Mshinge, Mwaka Namfukwe, and our legal counsel, thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye. We'll see you next week at the same time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.